Hey everybody, Captain Lou here with another edition of Tigers Daily in partnership with the Pan Arch Network. Happy Friday, July the 17th, 2026. We want to take a moment to ask you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. We give you our opinions and get you up to date on everything going on with the Tigers, the good, the bad, everything in between. We'll tell you what happened the night before, see what kind of trade rumors are out there, who we think maybe the Tigers should go after, or maybe if they should sell. That, everything. Follow us here on our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. For those of you that have subscribed, I thank you from the bottom of my heart. The comments have been fantastic, the banner back and forth. And for those of you, again, that have listened, I really do appreciate it. Without you, this wouldn't be possible. All right, back to work for the Tigers and Major League Baseball. The All-Star break is in the rearview mirror. We're going to take a look at the standings and see who are the pretenders, who we think, I don't know, maybe can get a playoff spot, or maybe just who is in position to make a run for the potential of a playoff spot, a division title, a pennant, and a chance to dethrone the Los Angeles Dodgers, or do the Dodgers have an opportunity to be a three-time champion? Taking a look at the Major League standings in the American League, the Yankees still leading the Tampa Bay Rays still leading the East. Their lead now at 3 games over the New York Yankees. Those are the only teams over 500. In the Central, the White Sox have a percentage point lead over the Guardians. The Tigers, as we know, 6.5 out. The Twins are ahead of them, 3 games back. And in the West, the Rangers with a 1.5 lead over the Mariners. The Rangers, the only team over 500 in the West. In the National League, the Braves, their lead that was once 10 games is now down to 2 over the Philadelphia Phillies. Donnie Baseball's gotten them playing great. They took 2 out of 3 from the Tigers at Comerica before the All-Star break. So they're right there. And the Miami Marlins, the surprise team in all of Major League Baseball, 4 games out. In the Central, the Brew Crew, Milwaukee with a 5-game lead over the Cubs. The Tigers will visit Wrigley and the Cubs coming up here starting Monday for a 3-game set. The Cardinals are 8.5 out and the Pirates 9.5 out. And in the West, the Dodgers, who at one time had a 16-game lead over the Padres, their lead now 11.5 over the Arizona Diamondbacks, 12.5 over the Padres. And in the wild card standings, this is where it gets interesting. This is where Detroit has more of a realistic chance to potentially get a playoff spot. As crazy as it sounds, with a 44-52 record, talking playoffs, it's right there. They're only 3.5 games out of a wild card spot. As it's held right now, the Mariners and the Twins are in a virtual tie for that last spot, 48 up and 49 down. I know it's insane. It's pathetic. It's nothing really to brag about, but it's there for the taking. Why not get a playoff spot? I was talking with a couple of announcers earlier, and it's like, okay, yeah, the Tigers may not have a chance, but playoffs mean revenue, and that's what ultimately they want. You get in the playoffs, who knows? You can get on a roll, make some noise. Anything's possible, right? That's my Pollyanna optimism for today. Realistically, I don't know if it's really possible that Detroit, should they get in the playoffs, would make some noise. But if the sticks get hot and the pitching stays the way it is, you just never know. So that's kind of a look. I can see the Rays and the Yankees making it, obviously. After that, who knows in the American League, right? And then the National League, the Dodgers are going to be in, the Brewers, probably the Cubs, and the Braves, and more likely the Phillies. And it might come down to that last spot. The Marlins lead it right now. So the American League is a jumbled up mess. Anybody can get in there right now, except maybe for the Angels, and I don't want to put the Maloik on us with Detroit going to Anaheim on Friday to take on the Angels. So anyways, that's kind of what we're looking at. So that's kind of what we want to talk about next. Again, Detroit in such a position, they're 3.5 games out of a wild card spot, 8 games under 500. We know that. We've been preaching it. But it puts them in such an unusual position this year. Usually when you're 8 games under 500, you're selling. There's no doubt about it. You're going to unload salary. You're going to try to get prospects, whatever. But the Tigers are in a position where they could even be buyers. And then you look at a trade that could make them both a buyer and a seller. And I kind of think about it. Why not pursue a Jet? Why don't we go across the lake? I keep kind of gravitating towards the Milwaukee Brewers because I know they could use an extra arm more so than a lot of the contenders. I know they would love nothing better than to get Skubal, but Skubal, the price is going to go up for him. And if you listen to Scott Boras, he doesn't want Skubal going, and we know what kind of weight he pulls in baseball. That's just the truth. That's calling it what it is. So what about Jack Flaherty? We always gravitate towards him maybe going. Well, I kind of took a look at it. I go back to the Brewers again because I like what they've got in the minor league system. And why not go after a Jet? A man by the name of Jet Williams. I know he's 5'7", but he can run, he can hit, he can field. He's got occasional power, but he gets on base. Detroit needs a reliable hitter in that lineup. Now, I know their pitching staff isn't the greatest right now, especially in the minor leagues, but it's I think this would be a good pickup. That is, if Detroit is going to be a buyer, but even if they're going to be a seller, I definitely could see Flaherty going. Now you hear the name Casey Mize too, but I think they could get more for Mize. But I tend to lean to keep Mize if they're still in position, and I believe they will be with what they've got coming up as far as the schedule. And we've talked about it ad nauseum here during the All-Star break. But if there's someone I think is going to go on the pitching staff, I think it could be Flaherty, if not Skubal, but they're going to ask for a lot more. But I do like Jet. Again, the only drawback I see out of him, he's kind of a Freddie Patek kind of a person. For those of you that don't know, I think he was 5'3", played for the Kansas City Royals back in the 70s. Jet's 5'7", but I like his nickname. He's got speed. He can cover a lot of ground, and he can hit for average. So that's why I would go after Jet Williams. He is the 5th-rated prospect. He can play in the infield, and also he's a center fielder. He's in the outfield, and that's what Detroit could really use. So I would pursue the Jet. And this could be kind of a buy or sell mode. But again, it's such a unique spot this year. They're kind of, it's an enigma situation, if you will. And so, why not pursue the Jet? Let's go after him. Let's take a chance on it. So, if they're going to make a move, I know the noise around Detroit, the sentiment now is starting to lean. Maybe they'll stand pat. But if they stand pat, yeah, they could go on a run to get to the playoffs, but they're not going to win it. I don't know if they could win it anyways, but like I said, they could get on a heater, get that playoff spot, maybe take that next step. But we'll keep an eye on it. It's always fun to speculate. That's what we do here. That's what we want to talk about. So I would pursue the Jet, fly him over Lake Michigan, get him to Comerica Park, give him a chance. They did it with Jahmai Jones, right? Trey Cruz. This guy can hit better than those two. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. All right, we talked about it yesterday. We looked at the sticks for the Tigers, the bats, what they had in the minor leagues. Now let's take a look at what they've got on the mound. And I got to tell you, nothing in Toledo really jumps out and scares me. And that kind of worries me a little bit. Detroit's got at the major league level, I think they've got an above average starting rotation. They've got Skubal, they've got Mize, they've got Melton playing very well. Flaherty, Valdez is a little shaky. He's not having his best year. He's pitched okay. He's had good games and he's been roughed up. Flaherty's turning it around. Then you've got Kiter Montero, who I think will be a 6th starter. They haven't announced the starting rotation for the Cubs series, so I could see Montero. Now, a lot of that, again, is going to matter. Valdez is on bereavement, so he'll be back this weekend, potentially Monday, so keep an eye on that. But I look at the pitching core in Toledo, and I got to tell you, nothing jumps out at me. I think if you're going to look at starters anyways for the Tigers, and that's what I tend to do, there's a couple that stood out for me that have been having good years. Carlos Pena, now he's at Toledo, but he had a good run at Erie. His whip is 1.16, 5-3. And then you've got Dariel Frigio, I should say. He's pitching really well right now for Erie. 6-1, a 1.28 whip. And he's got 4 starts. he's kind of a, I don't know, spot starter. So those are the two that are really, I think, pitching very well at Erie. Wanderson Charles, 6-1 in relief. He's had 30 appearances, but that's really about it, though. It kind of worries me, and maybe I'm looking too much at the ERA. I don't know. Now, I know the Tigers in the minors this year, none of their teams are going to win championships. The Whitecaps, of course, set all kinds of records last year in West Michigan. This year, they're just bottoming out. I know they're trying to recover from it, but I'm a little worried about the pitching staff. And I look at some of these numbers, and here's a couple that stand out to me. Detroit has only one complete game in the minor leagues. I know they have none, and I know the complete game has gone the way of the covered wagon and the dinosaur in baseball. Now, they just don't do it. But here is the stat that really stands out to me that is kind of scary. And again, I'd have to look at other minor league stats and all the other teams, and I really never paid much of attention to it until recently. But look at the quality starts for Detroit. Now, quality start is a 6-inning start, right? Detroit has 2 of them in the minor leagues. That's it. 2 quality starts. That, to me, is unacceptable. And they don't have any in Toledo. And I'm just bringing it up real quick. I think they may only have 1, now that I think about it. Nope, you're right, they just have 1. Kenny Serwa for Erie. That's it. They've got 1 quality start. Our starters in the minor leagues right now are barely averaging 5 innings of work. Now, West Michigan, I get it. I understand they want to develop the lower A ball, high A, whatever. They're still in the developmental stage. I get it. But I look at Erie, and I'm going to go with Carlos Pena, for example. 10 starts, 14 games he's pitched, 57 innings. Do the math. 5.7 innings a start. Kenny Swerva, 16 starts, 64 innings. That's 4 innings a start. 4 innings. And I look at some of the other ones. Now, this is the one that really hits me. Toledo. All right, you've got, again, I'm just dumbfounded by this. I look at some of these starts, and it's just, I'm flabbergasted by it. Sawyer Gibson Long, 15 starts, 66 innings. You do the math, that's 4.5. I mean, Dylan File, 75 innings pitched, 16 starts, 1 complete game. That's not even 5 innings a start. What am I missing here? I guess what I'm going to have to do is really dive into this to find out why our starters in AAA or in AA are not averaging 6 to 7 innings. Now, I know you want to save their arms, they're young, I get all that, whatever. I don't know if I get it. I don't know if I buy it. I don't know if I agree with it. Maybe, again, I've got to adjust to the times. And I know at the major league level, it's so frustrating that 95 pitches seem to be the limit, even if you're cruising in a game. 7 inning starts, I think, what has Detroit had? 3 maybe all year? With that pitching staff that should be doing more than that? And I look in Toledo, now I see why. This scares me. The Tigers have no pitching depth right now in the minor leagues, in my opinion. That's not a good sign. What happens if they don't re-sign Skubal, which is probably going to happen? What happens if they don't re-sign Casey Mize? What happens if they trade Flaherty? Maybe they can't afford to trade him. I look at these starting numbers, and I cringe at it. Brian Sammons, 8 starts, 10 games, 41 innings. What's that? 5 innings. That's all they're averaging. Again, maybe it's just, maybe I just got to get with the times. I just don't think that that's a good way to have. How do you prep a pitching staff for that? That means I'm kind of at a loss with it. It really is mind-boggling to me that they only allow them to pitch 5 innings in the minor leagues. Most of them aren't even going that. I'm flabbergasted by it. So I'm a little worried about that. Well, again, Pena and Frigio, they've got a good start down in Double A, and of course, Pena got called up to Toledo. So we'll see. But that's all we've got. I don't trust anybody else in Toledo. I look at those numbers and they don't jump out at you. And I'm going to have to do some digging. And I'll get back to you on this with the other teams in the minor leagues. I'm going to investigate that over the next few days to see if this is just a Detroit thing or if this is a trend major league wide. I read that and I was just flabbergasted by it. So I don't know. All right. We start the second half, as we mentioned. Everybody's back to work in the major leagues. Yesterday it was the Mets and the Phillies. Now everybody else. The Tigers open up a 3-game set in Los Angeles tonight, which is probably a good thing. And I say that because if you're not living in Michigan right now, like I am, here in Grand Ledge, just outside of Lansing, the wildfire smoke down here is incredible. You shouldn't be outside in it, let alone playing ball in it. So we're going to see, what happens when Detroit comes back next week, because they say this stuff isn't going away anytime soon. With the winds coming out of the northwest, I'm telling you, this is something I've never seen before. But anyways, the Tigers are out west where it's safe right now, playing the Angels in the first of a 3-game set tonight. Melton's going to be on the bump for the Tigers. Then it's going to be Skubal tomorrow, Casey Mize on Sunday. A recipe for potentially 2 out of 3. It would be nice to sweep them. I'm not going to hold my breath, but it would indeed be nice to sweep them. They're going to be on the bump for the Tigers this weekend. Again, let's look at the schedule here through the end of July. After this, they go to Chicago for 3. Then they got Kansas City at home for 4. Then they've got Baltimore in for 3. Then they go on their West Coast trip with the Athletics, Seattle, and San Francisco. That will take them through the trade deadline. The deadline is after they play the Athletics. But it all starts here against the team with the worst record in the American League. I hope I'm not putting the Maloik on the Tigers. But these are important games. They're all important now. This is the dog days, I get it. But they don't have much margin for error, do the Tigers. These are games that you have to win. These are the ones you got to accumulate. The worst Detroit can come out of these first 6 games, in my opinion, is 3-3. There's no excuse why they can't do that. 4-2 should be what the Tigers could do. But we'll keep an eye on that, at least on paper. But again, they don't play the games on paper, right? Quick injury updates. Gleyber Torres went 1 for 3 in his first start on rehab stint. So looking good for him. He's targeted to come back on the 20th. Jackson Jobe, 3 scoreless innings. 1 walk, 2 strikeouts down in Florida. Good news for that. That's a good sign for the Tigers. Would love to see him back in the Motor City in August. Would love to see Gleyber Torres back next week. And then the speculation will start to begin with him, because you got Hoon-Yu Lee playing well. What do they do with Gleyber Torres? Is that phrase again, buy or sell, the trade deadline. It's coming, and it's going to be fun for us to keep an eye on. All right, that's going to do it for this edition of Tigers Daily. I want to thank everybody for taking time out to be with us. However you watched us around the world, again, partnering up with the Fan Arts Network, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Tigers Daily. You get all of our great updates. For those of you that have done it already, I say thank you from the bottom of my heart. This is so much fun, and to see the interaction, it really means a lot, and I appreciate it. Until tomorrow, Captain Lou saying keep your heads up, keep your sticks down, keep your feet moving, and as always, keep your minds open. So long.